Hello and welcome to Super Great Kids Stories, wise tales from storytellers around the world, which will make you laugh and sometimes cry. Recommended for ages 5 to 105. I'm Kim and I love stories. Hello, Super Great Kids. Today's story is called Stargazy Pie. It's a legend about courage from Cornwall in the UK, and it's told by Jason Buck. How are you, Super Great Kids? Did you have a happy week? I had a particularly happy week because I visited some friends in Italy who I met when I was a teenager on an exchange programme in Kansas in the US. The friends come from Italy, Spain and the United States. We sang lots of songs in different languages which we taught each other many years ago. And we could still remember them. I wonder if you'll remember some of the songs from the Super Great Kids Stories podcast when you're all grown up. I hope so. Music has a way of settling inside your head and staying there happily for many years. So, just before we begin our story, here's a little question for you. How many songs can you remember from our podcast? You could start with the sharing song. You know the one. If you tell a friend and I tell a friend, we'll all have a super great time. Can you sing that one all the way through? And also the song about Bonita, the pretty tricky sheep. Have a think and see if you can sing that, and maybe even some more songs from stories while we have a quick word with the grown-ups. Ready? Off you go. Hello, Super Great Kids, I'm back. Did you remember some songs? How about Orange Tree, grow and grow and grow? Or Coyote and the Baby Turtle song from Toop. I don't know which way to go, which way to go. Or the lullaby which Kate Corkery sang from Molly and the Leprechaun. Dilly noo douse, dilly noo douse, noo dee, dilly noo douse, dilly noo douse, noo dee. And did you remember Foddo, Foddo, I'm a very pretty sheep. My name is Juanita, I'm a pretty tricky sheep. So, if you remembered 3 songs, that's very good. And if you remembered 5, well, that makes you a super great fan and a super singer too. Well done. Now, last week's story was from the sea, and this week's story is also from the sea. Last week's Maui legend is from the southern part or bottom of the globe, but this week's story is set in a little village in Cornwall, here in the UK, which is in the northern or top part of the world. And in October, we often have storms and high winds. So, this story is about a very big storm which hit a Cornish fishing village long ago. And it's told by the one and only Jason Buck. So let's give a very warm welcome to Jason.
Hello everybody, my name's Jason. You might have heard me already on Super Great Kids Stories. I've told such tales as The Luck Child and The Old Woman and the Pig. On the south coast of England, there is a little town with a very peculiar name. If you were to spell the name out, it looks as if it should spell the words mouse hole. But the village itself is known by the people who live there and all who know it and love it as Mousehole. It's a lovely place to visit. It's a fishing harbour with boats bobbing on the sea and a lovely place to spend your summer holidays. But some time ago, 500 years ago, a man was very brave and saved the village from starving. Tom was just one of the fishermen who couldn't take his boat out. All the fishermen stood on the edge of the port, on the edge of the quay at the harbour, and looked out across the waves. A great storm had come in, and it had spent days raising the waves up to the height of the houses, dark green like bottle glass, the colour of dark grey metal, and at the top toothed with foam. The waves came in and splashed and smashed upon the shore, and they would have smashed and splashed and completely splintered apart the fishing boats if they hadn't all been moored safely in the harbour. But day after day went, and the waves crashed in, and the sky was covered with dark, thick clouds, and the wind howled like a lonely wolf across the countryside. And as the days passed, the fishermen, who would normally be out in their boats, spent their time doing repairs to the baskets they would drop into the water to collect crabs and lobsters, repairs to the boats where they would touch up a little bit here and a little bit there with a little bit of paint or replace a piece of wood that had gone missing. Some of them would sit at home in front of the fire and listen to the wind howling down their chimney and the rain beating and thundering against the windows while they mended their fishing nets in the quiet, cosy comfort of their cottages. But as the days passed, the food that everybody had began to run low. This was a time before fridges, this was a time before supermarkets and shops, and the people of Mousehole depended upon the fishermen to go out and catch fresh fish and bring it back, not only for them to eat, but also to sell to get money to buy the things that they didn't make or produce. And as the storm lashed the tiny town, the days passed, and people began to run out of food. "What are we going to do?" said the villagers. "There's nothing we can do until the storm goes," but they all agreed that it wasn't safe enough for anyone to take a fishing boat out yet. But the wind howled and the rain beat down, and those great, great dark green waves smashed in onto the shore. Nobody dared take the fishing boats out. But eventually the food ran out, and people began to wonder, how could they get more food? How could they get more fish? How could they get the fish to eat and the fish to sell? Oh, my goodness me! Would they starve? Would they become penniless? But it was too dangerous to take a boat out. Eventually, one man, old Tom, he decided that he would brave the storm and brave the waves. If nobody went out in the fishing boat, there would be no fish to eat. And so he, when the storm happened to be just a little quieter one day, he got into his boat and set his sail, and out he went through the great harbour walls, rising up and sinking down on the waves that continued to roll in. Tom was on his own, and all the people from Mousehole village came down to wave him off and wish him luck. They watched as he bravely rode the waves up and down and up and down, those dark green gunmetal grey waves, as he ploughed the ocean itself. Now Tom was brave, but he was scared. Because that's the thing about being brave, it's when you're scared to do something, but you still manage to do it anyway. He was very afraid and worried about what would happen to him, but when he was far enough away from the harbour, where the water was deep enough, he took his great nets and threw them over the side of the boat and watched as they sank down deep, deep, deep into the murky waters. Long time the nets hung in the storm-tossed sea. He could see the floats on top of the water from which the nets hung. Up and down they went. As the day came to its end, as the sun began to sink in the west, and the storm began to increase in fury as the night approached, Tom began to haul in his nets. It felt like their last chance. If there were no fish in these nets, then no one would eat, and Tom had wasted his time and risked his life. But as he started to pull in the nets, my goodness, they were heavy. And as he started to drag them up and over the edge of the boat, he saw they were filled with shining, shimmering fish. Arm over arm he pulled the nets up into the boat, and they were filled, bulging, stretched with fish, so that as soon as he'd got that last part of the net up and it was in the boat, he turned his little craft round back towards the harbour, unfurled his sail, and ran before the storm, with the wind of the night storm chasing, howling behind him. As he came into the little harbour of Mousehole, there, at the edge on the harbour wall, everyone was so pleased to see him, and cheered and waved and shouted. And when they saw how much fish he had, oh, they were so pleased, and they said that immediately they would bake a great pie for the entire village. Now, some people didn't think that old Tom could have really gone out by himself. They didn't think that old Tom was brave enough to go out into the storm, and they didn't think he was strong enough to be able to pull in his own nets by himself and bring home a catch of fish large enough to feed the village. And so, just to prove those people wrong, the people of the village made a great pie from all the fish. There were 7 different types of fish in that pie, and from each type of fish they baked the pie so the fish's heads were poking up through the crust, so that when it was made from that beautiful golden brown crust, the fish's heads were peeping up, almost as if they were looking up at the night stars. All the people from the village sat around together, and they all tucked into that wonderful Stargazy Pie. And eventually their tummies were full, their hearts were happy, they sat and ate and smiled at each other, and it was such a moment of celebration and success that even to this day, every year, the people of Mousehole celebrate Tom's brave journey, and they all have a great procession, and there is a giant Stargazy Pie for all to see. And that is why, if today you go to Mousehole, you too can find places that will still cook you a pie with fish in it that is called Stargazy Pie.
Oh, thank you very much, Jason, for that story. Tom the fisherman was very brave, wasn't he? It must have been frightening going out at night all alone in that little boat on huge waves. And having to steer your ship back through that very small hole in the harbour wall when the water is wavy and choppy. I wonder if you've ever had to be brave. Sometimes, when you have to do something you find scary, you feel really pleased with yourself when it's over. I felt a little bit that way after my cycle trip in Spain because we had to cycle on very bumpy, gravelly paths and up very steep hills, and I only fell off once and that wasn't very hard. So I felt very pleased with myself for cycling for 7 days up tricky tracks. And my reward was meeting lots of lovely Spanish people along the way. Oh, and swimming in the sea every day too. Hurrah! If you liked hearing that story from Jason, you can watch him telling the story about the enormous turnip making all his amazing sound effects. That will be on our Super Great Stories online show on Saturday, October the 18th. Amy Douglas, who told you The Tramp and the Boots, and Japanese-born storyteller Masako Carey will also be telling stories. And the tickets are really very reasonable. You only buy 1 ticket for the whole family, and those tickets cost about $17 or £12.50, and even less if you're an Owlet. Look in your Patreon channel or on the Owlet's Facebook page for your discount code. To get a ticket, go to our website and look under News. And tickets for that show on Zoom are limited, so if you're thinking of coming, do book soon to avoid disappointment. And now it's time to fly around the world with Story Owl and say hello and thank you to all the owlets who've recently joined our storytelling club. First, let's head out to Colorado Springs in the west of the United States, where Everett just became an owlet for being brave at swimming lessons. Well done, Everett. That's something you'll be able to enjoy now for all of your life. Everett likes to listen to stories while he does art projects. He doesn't have a favourite because, he says, he likes them all. Oh, very nice. Let's head north now to Kalamazoo in Michigan in the US to say hello to Lauranga, who is 10, and 6-year-old Omina, whose grandmother bought them a gift of joining the Owlets Club. They love to listen with their little sister Patrice in the car and when they're playing in their bedroom and sometimes when they're eating ramen noodles. Their favourites include all of the Baba Yagas and the story of Finn McCool. They wonder if we could tell a story about the Yule Cat sometime, which sounds like a great legend, and I'll see if we can do it as a scary story. Heading further to Dublin, but not the one in Ireland, the one in the US in New Hampshire, where Evelyn, who's 5, loves the scary stories. Her favourite is The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. South now, all the way to Australia, where Heath, who is 7, and Hazel, who is 4, live in Melbourne. Heath's favourites are the Baba Yaga stories and Maui and the Big Fish. Hazel's favourite is Stone Soup. And both of them love the Johnny Cake Man from Australia, told by Evita the storyteller. Let's head up now across the Pacific to the west coast of Canada and the Campbell River on Vancouver Island to say hello to Charlie, who is 6 and listens every night. Her favourite stories are the ones with Baba Yaga. Me too, Charlie. She sent us a brilliant picture of Baba Yaga and Vasilisa the Beautiful. Back down to the US again now, to Charlotte in North Carolina, where Chance, who is 4, listens to the stories with his baby sister Callista, who is 4 months old. Oh, about the same age as my granddaughter Dorothy. Chance's favourite story is Maui and the Big Fish, told by Emmy Bidwa. West now to Colorado, where Everett, who's 5, and 2-year-old Leora live. Everett loves the spooky stories, especially, you've guessed it, The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. And back now across the US to Greensboro in North Carolina. And hello to Divine, who is 3 and loves all the stories, but is particularly keen on the wide-mouthed frog. Ah, you know, Divine, that was one of my favourites when I was your age. And if you'd like to watch Amy Douglas, who told that story, telling another story, she'll be live online on Saturday, October the 18th. That's it for this week. More Owlet welcomes next week. Thank you. We really appreciate your support. And our Pick of the Week picture is from 6-year-old Izzy from the UK, who has drawn us a magnificent autumn-themed drawing of the Japanese story, The Boy Who Drew Cats. There are lots of cats in her drawing, some being rubbed, some stroked and some tickled. I think Izzy likes cats, don't you? Izzy has framed her picture with conkers and beautiful autumn leaves, which she collected in a nearby park in Lancaster. Izzy is a super fan and loves retelling the stories to her friends. She's now working on a story of her own, inspired by the podcast. Hurrah! Well done, Izzy. That puts a wag in my tail. Do send us any of your pictures inspired by Stargazy Pie. Maybe the little boat being tossed on stormy waters and the people at home eating Stargazy Pie with fish sticking out of the crust. Or if you've drawn pictures of any other stories from our podcast, you can send them to our website, supergreatkidsstories.com, or to our Facebook page, facebook.com/supergreatkidsstories. And Story Owl will reply to you and post them. Hoo, 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 hoo. That will get her hooting with delight. And thanks to all of you who are subscribing to our podcast. We really appreciate those of you who feel you can support us on Apple or Patreon. It helps us to pay the storytellers, and it gives you access to all the Super Great Scary Stories, depending on your level of subscription, to nearly 60 bonus stories, plus you'll get access to our Super Great Kids Stories Express, which cuts straight to the story. Great for listening to stories back to back and in the car. Visit our website for more details, supergreatkidsstories.com. Well, that's it for now, except to say that if you live in the UK and would like to hear me telling Super Great Kids stories for free, then I'll be appearing at the Cheltenham Literature Festival on Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th of October. I'll be telling stories in the story tent through most of Saturday and Sunday morning and signing books in Waterstones between the stories. I look forward to meeting some of you there. And remember, our online show in October is Saturday the 18th with Jason Buck, Amy Douglas and Masako Carey. The theme is Harvest Stories. Keep telling your stories and singing your songs. Have a happy week. Maybe I'll see you in Cheltenham the weekend after next. Bye for now, or as they say in Italy, ciao. This podcast was produced by Kim Normanton and David Smith at Wardour Studios in fabulous Fitzrovia in London.